tours in federal election campaigns can be a bit of a blur, but the focus at every stop, at every rally, was the unfairness, the exclusion, and the anti-democratic, capricious, and arbitrary decision-making of this group of media executives who've called themselves the Consortium. And we actually have had, since Thursday morning, 25 rallies across Canada for democracy. And there were two that were self-organized where I wasn't able to be there, in Calgary and in Kelowna, but in all the others, whistle-stop tour across the country from Toronto to Montreal gave us, I think it was 9 rallies in that leg on Via Rail, plus Halifax, plus New Glasgow, plus Montreal and Toronto, with packed halls. But I've got to say, coming home and having this reception and this many people and wonderful speeches from Safara and from Ben and from Dennis and all of you being here is really, this is the last rally. This is our last chance because the English language debate is scheduled to go ahead tomorrow. And as of now, it's going ahead without the voice of the Greens. It's going ahead with the same parties that participated before I got in the debates in 2008. And I keep wondering what's wrong with the Broadcasting Consortium. The ratings went up when they relented and allowed me in the debates in 2008. The stated reason in their press release for excluding the Greens was that it was a programming decision. And they've gone to great lengths to say how difficult it is to have 5 people in the room. Yeah. And I keep wanting to point out to them, wisdom from the ages. What works in practice should work in theory. We actually did it in 2008. I don't think that millions of Canadians thought that somehow or other democracy had been let down because there was that woman in the room who kept talking about things the others weren't mentioning. Watch for our website. We're still not giving up on getting into the debates. You never know. They could call tonight. They could call tomorrow morning. And as long as there's time to physically get there, unlike the other leaders, I don't seem to need a day off to prepare. I don't need mock debates where someone else plays all. This is what they do, by the way. Did you know this? I've actually spoken to people in other parties whose job was to be me in the debate to prepare the other leaders. Maybe that's the problem. They couldn't find anyone prepared to do that anymore. So, if I were there, and this is what I've been looking forward to, one of those things that you think about whenever you discover something new about the direction of Canadian democracy, about the infiltration and excessive influence of certain large globalized corporations, you think, I could bring that up in the leaders' debate. That's something I'm going to bring up. And so I've been thinking about all the things. Now, in 2006, when they kept the Greens out, I think a lot of you will remember what issues were never mentioned. Climate change, foreign policy, and Afghanistan were never mentioned in the 2006 debate. Now, I should correct that slightly. Paul Martin did try to point out that Stephen Harper was against Kyoto, but everybody else, all the other leaders, let that drop quickly because they didn't want to talk about climate change. So in 2008, when I was, thanks to all the public pressure from Canadians, because as has already been pointed out from the podium, even when we had Blair Wilson actually leave being an independent to being a sitting Green before Parliament dissolved, at that point, they said to me, and I met with the Consortium, I've met with them since January 2007, and again in September 2008, and they always explained very clearly, we have no rules, we have no guidelines, and as Ben pointed out, we could put something in the Elections Act to govern leaders' debates. As of now, there's nothing. There's nothing in any legislation. There's not even a set of notes on an old paper napkin that these guys set aside some years ago. They actually have no rules, no criteria, and they claim they make up their mind after the writ drops based on what they think is in the public interest. So in this case, man, I know the aspect of collusion, it doesn't pass the sniff test here. We know, Andrew, and we've had a lot of support. I'm sure you've probably been following it on the website. We've had 3, actually, former prime ministers tell me they support this. Now, Joe Clark made a very clear public statement that was just brilliant and was an affidavit we took to court. Paul Martin also made a strong statement to the media, and I ran into former Prime Minister John Turner traveling back from Vancouver to Ontario for the beginning of the tour, and he just took my hand and said, "They should let you in," and he said, "I'm so proud of you," which was really nice.